Have you ever just stopped and really looked at your plate of food? Not just what's on it, but the incredible journey it took to even get there? Well, today we're going to do exactly that. We're tracing our meals all the way back to the very beginning.
So you see a meal like this, and it looks amazing, right? But it's so much more than just the finished dish. It's actually a collection of totally different parts. And believe it or not, each one has its own story. To really understand where food comes from, we got to break it down first.
So yeah, ever wonder what it took to get right here? That whole journey, from the source all the way to your plate, is a pretty fascinating process. Let's start digging for clues. And the best place to find them is in the recipe itself.
All right, first up, let's get into the recipe's secrets. Before we can trace our food back to a farm or a field, we need to figure out what the basic building blocks of the meal even are. Okay, let's start with something super simple. A food that billions of people around the world eat every day. Just a simple bowl of boiled rice. Its simplicity makes it the perfect place to start our investigation.
So how do you make it? Well, you start with some raw rice and you boil it in water. That's it. Seriously, that's the whole recipe. Just two things. So that's our baseline for complexity.
Of course, most meals are a lot more complicated than that, right? So let's compare that simple rice with something like, say, a curry.
Okay, now the list gets way bigger. You've got different vegetables, salt, all kinds of spices, oil, and the list goes on and on. We just went from two components to, well, a whole lot more.
And all those different materials, the rice, the water, the veggies, the oil, we call those ingredients. Each one has its own unique story, its own origin. So the big question is, can we find a common thread that connects them all?
So, where do all these different ingredients actually come from? Well, when you trace every single one of them back, you'll find that they almost always lead to just two fundamental sources.
And those two sources are the foundation for pretty much everything humans eat. We're talking about plants and animals.
From the plant side, we get our grains, fruits, and vegetables. And from the animal side, we get things like meat, milk, and eggs. These two pillars are basically holding up our entire food system.
Let's go back to that chicken curry for a second. The chicken, that's obviously an animal product, but the oil it's cooked in and that amazing blend of spices, all of that comes from plants. So you see, a single dish is often a fusion of both of these worlds.
Now let's explore what I like to call nature's supermarket. The sheer variety of food that comes from just these two sources is honestly staggering. Let's take a closer look. You know, when we say we eat plants, it's incredibly diverse. We eat pretty much every part of them. We eat roots, like carrots. We eat leaves, like spinach. We even eat stems, flowers, and seeds from all sorts of different species.
And some plants are just total overachievers. Take the mustard plant, for instance. It gives us two totally different kinds of food. We press its seeds to get oil, and we eat its leaves as a vegetable. How cool is that?
Speaking of seeds, here's a fun little thing you can actually do at home. Take some dry seeds, like chana or moong dal, and just soak them in water for a day. Then drain all the water out, wrap them in a wet cloth, and just wait. Something amazing happens.
They sprout. A little white structure starts to grow right out of them, and they completely transform from a hard, dry seed into a delicious, crunchy snack. It's a great way to see a plant's life cycle in action, right in your own kitchen.
Oh, and then there's honey. This is a fascinating one. Bees gather nectar from flowers, which is a plant product, and then they go back to their hive and transform it. They create this unique food that's kind of like a bridge between the plant and animal worlds.
Okay, let's zoom out, because it's not just humans who are thinking about what's for dinner. Every animal on Earth needs to eat, and what they eat actually defines their place in the great food chain.
So, first you've got the herbivores. These are the plant eaters, like cows and deer, that exclusively eat plants. They form a really important foundational link in the whole system. Then you have the carnivores. These are the predators, like lions and tigers, and as you probably guessed, they eat only other animals. And finally, there are the omnivores. This group, which includes animals like bears and crows, eats a mix of both plants and animal matter. This gives them a really flexible diet.
Which brings us to a pretty big question, right? Where do we humans fit in? Biologically, we're classic omnivores, but our diets are so incredibly diverse across the globe. It makes you think about how things like culture, geography, and just personal choice shape what ends up on our plates.
And for our last section, some food for thought. Because, understanding where our food comes from is a science question, but making sure everyone has access to it, well, that's a deeply human one.
We've traced this incredible journey that food takes from nature to our tables. But we have to remember that for millions and millions of people, that journey is broken. Having enough food to eat is simply not a guarantee.
So the next time you look at your plate, maybe just take a second. Think about the full journey. Think about the plants, the animals, and all the systems that brought it to you. Knowing where food comes from is crucial, but making sure everyone has access to it, that is the ultimate challenge. Thanks for joining me.